Bulavinaka. My name is Eva Teilai, and I am a retired school teacher. I attend the Methodist Church in Andera, and I am a volunteer for Bible Society. The resources that we'll be talking about today at this session is focused in two areas. One is children learning Bible verses and memorizing them, and the other one is telling stories, telling Bible stories. So the resources come in those two areas, and we're going to be promoting or showing you different ways in which you can do focus on these two areas as you take Sunday school. Okay, one of the things that we often that is often a hindrance to us as Sunday school teachers is that we think we should have all the best resources before we can, in order to have a good class. But what we want to tell you is that it's very easy to create your own resources and to improvise wherever you can. So you will see here that we have some basic equipment that we use at home, and they're quite cheap to buy, like glue, and just have a pair of scissors, sellotape, paper clips, crayons. If you have a stapler, that's fine. If you don't, you can have sellotape will do just the same, and just the use of ordinary packets, empty packets of what we use every day at home. We're trying to encourage you to improvise and make use of whatever resources you have at home. So you will see that in our resources that we have here, or the teaching aids that we have, they're made using these basic tools. I think that's what we want to show. Often when we teach children about verses, we often just recite them, we read them out, and we ask the children to repeat them after us. And then we expect them to remember these verses. Sometimes we explain the verses, sometimes we don't. So these are some ways in which we can help children remember the verses. We can either write it up, like these verses here, John chapter 3 verse 16, a well-known verse for the children. We can write it up or type it out like this one and stick it up on the wall where the children can read it together. Or we can put it on a background that reminds the children of what the kind of verse is, what area the verse is in. And John chapter 3 verse 16 talks about God's love, that he loves the world. And so we can stick the verse in a folder or just in ordinary cardboard that's got a gold background, so that gold is a reminder of God's love, and we can stick the verse in it like this. Okay? So whenever the children see the gold color, they remember that it's to do with God's love. Any verses to do with God's love, and so it helps them to remember the verse much more easily. Okay? Anything to do with sin, we can put it on black background. Okay, there is black cardboard around, or in this case we can use dark purple or purple and just color it, use a pencil pen to make it black, to do with sin. Dark colors, black to do with sin, anything to do with sin, like Romans 6 verse 23 or Romans 3 verse 23, which is in here. Okay? And how it separates us from God. So anything to do with sin is in black. Anything to do with Jesus saving us, or the blood of Jesus, is put on red. What God did was to provide Jesus as the way, the truth, and the life. And so we can put verses in it, like Romans 5:8, that remind the children about what Jesus did for them, that he came and he died for them, can be put on red backgrounds. And these folders are very easily bought in the supermarkets for things like 34 cents a folder, very cheaply. And anything to do with the new salvation, okay, what happens to us, is put on a white background. The new life that God offers us is put on white background, and eventually anything to do with the carry on of that new life we can put on a green background, or you can decide whatever color you want, and the children begin to remember them. Whenever you mention the color, they will remember. If you say, what does John chapter 10 verse 10 tell us? Okay, it's on gold background. They will remember the verse because they attach it to the color. And children remember colors much more easily because they are visual learners. This is one way of helping children to remember their Bible verses. Another way of helping children remember the verses, because the verses have been explained and they have a better understanding. This focuses on their understanding. When they understand the verses, they remember them even better. One way of doing this is to take a verse and then stick it on cardboard or the back of a empty packet of milk, and then cut it up into segments. Okay, if the segments can be done so that there are 4 sections, 4 separations, then that helps the students, the children remember them even better. Okay, for example, in this one, Romans 6:23 in Fijian, it says, "Nisa kene saun ni walwalada na mate." That's one section, and just this part can be explained to the children, that they know that sin, there's a price for sin, and that is death. Okay, so just explaining this bit will help them remember how this verse starts. Okay, ia sai soli ulangani kalo na bula tawa mundo. That's another section, and this can be discussed and explained. And if they understand this, when it comes to saying the whole verse, they are saying it because they've understood the different parts of it. Nisa kene saun iwalwalada na mate. Ia sai soli ulangani kalo na bula tawa mundo. Ena hukui Jesu Kristo na noda turana. That bit is another section. Okay, so you're dividing it up into different parts, and explaining it will help them remember. And you can give them these cut up bits and ask them to put the verse together. Okay? So you can take them as far as you want. This way the children will remember the verses by understanding, and also you can use it. There's multiple ways to use these pieces. You can use them as a game, where the children can, like a relay game, the children run up to the piece and pick it up and come back to their team and give the piece to their team members, who then try and put the verses together. Okay, it can be used in whichever team wins, finishes first, will win. This will help them, encourage them to remember the verses. You can use them in multiple ways. That's what I was trying to say here today. You can then put them in rubber bands and pack them in an old envelope and carry them to church every Sunday. Sometimes at the end of your class you have free time. You can divide the children up into groups of 2 or 3 and then give each group one of these for them to unscramble. This way they continue to be reminded of the verses they've already learned. This is one way to help children remember verses, by understanding the verse. And finally, on memory verses, we have here another way of helping children to remember the verses, and also a discussion on the different parts of the verse to help them understand. This is called a memory cross, and it's easily made from Vanguard. You can use the old packets of mosquito coil and milk, but you'll have to look for softer cardboard packets, packets that are made of softer cardboard, because some of the cardboards are quite hard and they're difficult to fold. So these are memory crosses. We call them memory crosses, and the way it is used is that you open the cross, you open sections of this at different times, and you read it as you go along, or the children will read it. For example, in this one, Romans 12:1, Okoyongo osawakamamasu bekemdo na wewekani ena buku ni loloma wakabunga ni kalo mindo solia na yangomundo me mandra limbula me sabsaba Vinaka buana kalu. Menumundo isoro wakayalo. And then you start again. Roma wasi tinkarua tikinendua. And the children continue. So you actually hold this in front of them like this, in front of you, facing them as they're seated. And you turn the memory cross over, you open it out over and over. So it's just, it takes a sideways turn and then an up and down turn. So you're turning sideways and then you move your hand here and you turn it up and down. So this is how it's opened out to the children. Okay, you can have them in different sizes, in different colors. So you can have a bigger one, for Christ died for sins, once and for all, a good man, on behalf of sinners, in order to lead you to God. And then you start again. Okay, so different sizes, different colors. Okay, 1 John 1:9, kebakain sabakasana nande walbalaba, sayalantina yalundundonu kokoya, membokoda na nande walbalaba, kabakasabata kikenta maina kakedenga senga ni bandono. So you'll notice that every page, every turn is a phrase or part of the verse that can be used for discussion. And the children at the same time will be really interested in finding out how you're turning it, but they will remember this very easily. This is called a memory cross, and you can use it from, I often use an old manila folder, and just basic scissors and glue to use this. And maybe a pencil pen. If you've got a printer and you can print the verses out, that's good. But if you don't, you can just write them in. Okay, so this is how it's done. So today I'm just going to show you how to do this. You can find this resource on the internet. It's called a memory cross. So you just go to Google and you print in "make a memory cross" and it will take you straight to the different websites. But I will show you very quickly how to do it. You need 2 pieces of square vanguard, right? 2 pieces of, there must be a perfect square, that means the sides are equal. Okay, and all you do is you fold each one in half, fold it in half, and cut them down the middle. So I'm going to do this very quickly, just to show you what it looks like and how to do it for those of you who don't have access to internet. Fold it down the middle, okay, and then you take each of these segments and again fold them into a half. Along their lengths, fold them into a half. Two, and 3, and 4. Okay, I'm doing it very quickly, but you need to take your time a little bit with it. Make sure that it's exactly correct. It will affect the way it's folded a little bit, whether you find it difficult. And then you take 2 of them and turn them with the fold facing upwards, and you take the other 2 and you put them on top of these 2 with the fold going facing downwards like this, and then you press them down together like that. And press them down. Okay, and then you take a pencil, pen, and you mark out the little square at the bottom in the corner of each. Mark out the little square. So it's because you have folded it, it makes a mark. So you make a mark here, right, and here. Make a mark there. And again on this side, just make sure that your fold is correct. And then another one here. Here. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to put glue into these sections, right? And then you do the same on this side. You mark this one out as well. One. And this one. you just put glue in those squares and nothing else, right? So the whole memory cross is made just like this. It's very simple to make. Okay, so you just put glue on the corners, and then you stick them together, and then you fold them out in a way that will help the bends help you to form the bends of the memory cross. Okay, so you just stick them together. Making sure it's straight. Give them a good rub, leave them for some time, and then start folding them. Just make sure that they have been stuck really well. You can use liquid glue. This is dry glue, but you can also use liquid glue, as long as you remember that when you put the glue in, it doesn't go over into the other section. Okay, so the other section is not folded over. All right. I'm going to fold this over. After you've stuck them together, you fold them over so that you can establish the creases on it, because when you turn them, you have to turn them right over. So when you fold this, you have to turn it right over. Okay. One here, and this one goes right over. Okay. It goes completely over the border, like this. Okay, and this will enable you to easily establish the creases so that they become easy to turn over when you want to turn them over. Okay, so this is called a memory cross, and you can go back to the internet if you have access to it and Google memory cross, and it will show you how to make a memory cross. Right, so this is one way of helping children to remember Bible verses. Storytelling is something that children love. They really love a good story told with expression, and also a good story that they can actually visualize. They can see with their eyes the components of the story. And these are some ways that you can visualize your story. You can just create little pictures of them. The children can actually color them themselves, and you can use them in your story. This represents the Holy Spirit. So when you're teaching on the Holy Spirit, you can have a visual representation like this. Again, just picture on cardboard empty packets that we have at home. This, for example, it can be used in this. These are pieces that we have used on another lesson, a whole lesson on its own. Teilai. Okay. So this is an example of one which we have here, which is we call the timeline, and the children can actually visualize, the whole book of what is in Genesis, just through pieces that you can put up and discuss. Each piece can be a discussion on its own. The story of Adam and Eve, the story of creation, the story of Abraham, of Joseph, and of Moses. And the children will recognize the pieces because of the characteristic that is in that picture. So this is a very good way to visualize what you want them to learn. You can have separate pieces like this, Paul, the rule of the kings, is what is written in Chronicles, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, and 1st and 2nd Kings, time of the kings. They can be represented like this. So you can think of a way to represent them. You can get the picture just from the internet or from an old Sunday school material that you have somewhere that's no longer used, and you can cut it up, give it some color, and then use them as hard pieces. And because they're hard pieces, you can just stack them together and put them in an envelope and use them again next year, or use them again for another story further down the year. Another way of representing the creation. Okay, this is just 2 circles put together, and you can use them to show the process of creation. So it's 2 circles folded into 8 pieces, into 8 segments, 2 circles folded into 8 segments, and then one of the segments cut out so that it creates a window. And then you can have a paper clip. You just undo your paper clip, straighten it out, stick it down the middle, and then take the ends of it on the other side and bend them over so that they don't fall apart. And you can use this as you go along with the way this one is done. And this one has 2 other pieces that's stuck at the bottom, just so that they can assist with the process of turning the wheels. Okay, first day, what happened during the first day, what happened during the second day. So then you just keep going around, and the children can play with this. They can actually make them as well, and they can learn easily what happened on the different days. You can make it different colors, you can design it the way you want, just to improve on its appearance and its appeal to the children. This is another one, another way of doing it. The picture is actually taken from an old Sunday school photocopy of that we take out for the children to color. It's colored, and then it's stuck on a piece of cardboard, and then before it's stuck, it is cut. Okay, so the level of where the water is cut, and a piece like this with Jesus walking on the water is stuck in between. Again, old packets of milk and cardboard at home, and then you can just, as you talk about it, you can move Jesus walking on the water towards them as you read the story, or you tell the story. Yeah, so there's lots of ways you can do this kind of. This is an illustration of a cut within the picture or the diagram to make movement possible. You can use ice block sticks if you want to stick at the back, if it makes it more firm for you, or you can just use cardboard. It'll do just as well. This is another way, model making, to illustrate your story, to accompany your story, where you make your own figures and you make your story look like a 3-dimensional it gives it a 3-dimensional appearance where the children, you can move figures as you tell your story to make it interesting. It engages them, and it actually involves them. They become participating. They participate in the story. It engages them, not just as a listener, but as an active involvement, where they're doing it as actively engaging with the story and the characters on the story. So there's different ways to make them. You can see that the pieces here, for example, with these 2, I'll tell you where it came from. It came from this particular story, where this handout was printed, given to the children, and usually they color this. They just color it, and it's a takeaway, a piece that they take home. But you can take the same diagram, take the same picture, and cut out the characters on the picture, and then stick them on an old packet of milk, unused packet of milk, and then cut it out, and just take another piece of the packet of milk and stick it at the back like this, so that it can stand. And this way you actually engage this character. You can have some other pieces. Here he is talking to a lame person that came off this picture, telling him that you can now come to the banquet. This is taken from the parable of the great feast. So you can have some other characters from another picture on one side, those who are invited, and you can put the same servant there. So there's different ways you can move the pieces these are examples. There's one here of Jesus. It's not yet colored in, but you can then color it with the different colors you want. It's just in black and white, so you can make it look with a red or a robe or a maroon one. So these are the same style of characters, same style of models. These three are made from old toilet rolls, where you can make a character and just dress character up with just using glue and old cloth at home. This one has some hair from some coconut husk, and this one is using hair from wool, okay, that we use on the mat to make the kula. And this one doesn't have any hair, it's just a cloth with another piece around it. So you can create these. You can actually create a three-dimensional scene. You can make trees with, again, from toilet roll. So there's many things that you can do. You can do a setup that will help the children really engage with your story. This is an example of increasing the engagement of children. Usually, when we think of storytelling, we think of a book, and we try and find a book that we read to children, or we read ourselves, and then we tell them the story. So here we have different ways, different books that have been produced to help us tell the story. We have one here that is very simple. The story is taken from the Bible, paraphrased and written. And you'll notice that it's very simply done. One story on one page with a colorful picture to go with it. So this is one way, one kind of book that we can use. And this would probably be read to preschool, class 1, class 2, where it's very brief. The print is big and it has a colorful picture on it. But it's very important to know that when we're reading stories to children, that we try and really apply ourselves to the story that we read, and just not read it like a book, like you were reading a book, but read it as it's a story being told to the children. So your expression is important. For example, Abraham was 100 years old when the son God promised him was born. Abraham and Sarah named him Isaac. Okay, so your expression and your tone is important to engage the children. It's got the section that the Bible is, where in the Bible it's taken from. It's got the reference there. This is another one. One story on 2 pages, God's creation. This would be for class 4 and 5. Right now, it's important to know that some children struggle with reading. So if you give out books for them to read, or if you read the story to them, if they ask for a word, ask for the meaning, you should tell them. Or if you're reading it, when you get to a particular word, stop and ask them, do you know what this word means? Okay, so different ways of using the book. The material is here, and it's got pictures, and these are very good books. There's another one here, My First Bible for toddlers. Again, very pictorial, 2 pages of pictures and very little writing in it. And again, the way you read it should engage the children. So put your voice and expression. Don't use monotone, because the children will get very bored very easily. There's another one here, My Key Verse Bible. This one has themes. Okay, it's topical. It has themes in it, and each theme follows a chronological order of the story in the Bible, the way they are written in the Bible, recorded in the Bible. But it comes with a particular theme. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. So this is on creation. Again, very pictorial and less writing. So these are different ways of different story books that we have. Okay, this is on fear. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. Okay. Story of Noah. And then we have here another presentation like a little bag, and when you open it, the story is in there. Okay, so it's you can then read it here and read it to the children. The stories are inside. It's presented like this. This is also a good gift at the end of the year. We have a comic. Okay, this is in the Kandavu dialect. Another presentation of the gospel, another presentation of Bible stories that can be read as a comic strip. And then finally we have this one, the same storybook, which is in Fijian. Yeah, again paraphrased, and it has the reference up here, so this can be read. And I think this is a good book to buy for your class, Sunday school class, because it means that the children can read together. If you have a set, they can sit in groups, in pairs, and two children can share, 2 or 3 can share one of the books. So these are some of the storytelling books that we have that accompany, these are some of the resources that we have to accompany storytelling. Okay, we have here different versions or different presentations of the Bible that the children can also use. Here we have the classic children's Bible. It has colorful pictures inside of it. Bible that we have that is also available in the Bible Society bookshop, the illustrated Bible, and it also has pictures in it that are illustrations in the book, in the Bible. There's this one, and then we have this particular one, which is presented as a comic. Very interesting, right from the creation all the way to Revelation. It is presented as a comic, and it's also available in the bookshop. Currently, the Bible Society is also translating different stories into Fijian, but this is one that I think the children will love because it is in the form of a comic. It doesn't dilute the power of the Word of God, but it just enhances it, and it becomes relevant for the different kinds of learning styles that the children have. Thank you. We also have here the New Testament, written in big fonts, and it has diagrams inside of it as well that the children will like, and also the teacher can use. If you photocopy a picture like this, you can use it as a resource for your teaching. So this is also available in the Bible Society bookshop. Teaching aids to accompany your lessons, to help children remember. This is one, the Ultimate Bible Quiz, 100 quizzes and 1,000 questions, and it goes through, it gives you the quiz and the answers. Okay? You can just go through, they're in an order already. Quiz number 3, husbands and wives, books of the Old Testament, very, very handy to have as a Sunday school teacher. So this is the Ultimate Bible Quiz. We also have activities to accompany your Sunday school lessons. These are 2 books that come together. They actually have activities in them that you can, the children activities, and the children can cut out and paste things that they can do, different stories and you can photocopy the pages and use them to accompany your lesson. I know that for many of us, we already have recorded lessons. We have a book that is our teacher's guide, and a book that is the children's workbook, but these are additional to those activities that you have, and I would like to recommend them. They are very engaging. Making models is part of this. There's one here that you can cut out and stick on cardboard. So there's lots of activities that are available to accompany your lessons, and it will engage the children. There's another one here, 5-minute Sunday school activities, and again, it's an activity book. How it is used is always there. It has nice big prints that you can photocopy and the children can fill in. So different activities are here to accompany your lessons. They support your lessons, and they will certainly keep the children busy. And finally, we have here Bible detective, finding out more, right? A puzzle search book, which is again very interesting. There's a picture in it, and the children can search for the characters, and there's an explanation of what that image represents. There's an explanation. So it's information, knowledge, as well as giving the children an inquisitive eye and asking questions like they would a detective. So the battle against the Philistines comes under different headings. I think the teacher will enjoy doing this as well. Before you give it to your children, it will be good to go through it yourself as a teacher.